Thank you, Presiding Officer. Scotland's only oil refinery ceased operations this week. Hundreds of workers at Grangemouth have lost their jobs and face an uncertain future. Scotland has vast oil reserves, but will now need to import all of our petrol, diesel and other fuels. And this is the price of the SNP and Labour's hostility towards oil and gas. So before more damage is done, will John Swinney drop his government's presumption against new oil and gas exploration?
First Minister.
President, the first thing I want to say is to express my support and solidarity with all those in the Grangemouth workforce who face the prospect of losing their employment as a consequence of the decision by PetroIneos to stop refining at the refinery at Grangemouth. That is a decision that the company has come to, as Mr Findlay will know from what I've said before. I judge that decision to be premature because I think there is an ongoing need for refining activity. Indeed, refining activity will take place in other parts of the United Kingdom, despite the issues that are faced at Grangemouth. So what the Scottish Government will do is that we will work closely with the workforce. We've done that with Unite the Union. We will support the individuals that are affected. We will take forward the work that has been the source of collaboration between ourselves and the United Kingdom Government and PetroIneos on alternative business ideas to develop the Grangemouth site as a site that can contribute to the Government's net zero agenda. And, of course, an early decision on the Acorn carbon and capture and storage project would significantly help us in the efforts that we're taking forward.
Russell Findlay.
Well, the SNP used to say it's Scotland's oil. Now they just want to stop oil. Nicola Sturgeon opposed the Cambo oil field, while Humza Yousaf opposed Rosebank, even though this would result in higher energy prices and greater reliance on foreign imports. John Swinney personally brought the Greens into government. These dangerous fanatics want to shut down all oil and gas production.
Mr Findlay, I'll just remind you of the need to treat other members with courtesy and respect.
Okay, I'll try again. These dangerous cranks want to shut down all oil and gas production.
Mr Findlay, we have many questions to get through today, and I would just ask the member to remember the need to adhere to our standing orders.
These dangerous ideologues want to shut down all oil and gas production. Now, the Grangemouth refinery is gone and all governments share some responsibility, but the greatest blame lies with a government that turned its back on Scotland's world-leading and innovative oil and gas industry. If John Swinney doesn't support business, how can he act all surprised when businesses fail?
First Minister.
One of the things I'd say to Mr Findlay in response is that we have to recognise the climate emergency that we face and the necessity of adapting to that reality. Now, I know that the Conservatives are involved in a pivot on net zero, and they in fact want to deny the climate challenges that we face. But the underpinning point that I would make to Mr Findlay is at the heart of the approach the Scottish Government has taken on the consideration of any further developments in the North Sea oil and gas sector is that any decision must be the subject of a climate compatibility assessment. Now, that is what the courts have now said is required to take place. And the judgments that have been undertaken by the courts, which have led to the United Kingdom Government having to revisit some of their process for determining these applications, is because of the importance of that point of the climate compatibility assessment. So we cannot deny the realities of what we are facing as a society. What this government will do is support industry to transition to that reality, and the best thing that we can do, the best thing we can all do in this Parliament, is argue for the approval of the Acorn carbon capture and storage project, which the Conservatives refused to authorise when they were in office. The quicker we get Acorn approved, the better for Scotland's climate strategy.
Russell Findlay.
We are being honest with the public about the cost of net zero. They are not. That's the difference. And instead of learning lessons from the SNP's harmful approach towards oil and gas, the Labour government is copying it. Even senior Labour figures and the trade unions can see it. Tony Blair says the Labour's approach is, and I quote, doomed to fail. The GMB says that just switching off investments in the North Sea is absolute madness. John Swinney expressed his solidarity with the Grangemouth workers. Well, Unite Union says, and I quote, John Swinney and Anas Sarwar will face the wrath of voters for their broken promises to the workers and the people of Grangemouth. Labour's copycat approach will cost more Scottish jobs, it will increase bills and it will do more to harm the environment by importing energy from overseas. Does John Swinney agree that Labour should in fact do the very opposite to the SNP?
First Minister.
Mr Findlay's talked about honesty. In November of last year, Mr Findlay voted for climate change targets, carbon reduction targets in this Parliament. When his United Kingdom government leader questioned the merits, not questioned, actually suggested that these targets be dumped, Mr Findlay called that refreshingly honest. I call it barefaced dishonesty in front of the people of this country. To vote for climate change targets
Let's hear the First Minister.
To vote for climate change targets 1 minute and press this government to act on those climate change targets, and then desert the field when the going gets tough on the instructions of the Conservative leader. Now, what we've done is that we've put in place financial support and assistance to make that available through the Scottish Government's budget, which Mr Findlay didn't support, to assist in the delivery of projects under the Project Willow umbrella, which will secure the future of the Grangemouth site. But I return to my fundamental point. The quickest and best thing that can happen is approval of the carbon capture and storage project at Grangemouth, and I hope Mr Findlay will make up for the failure of the Conservative government and support my call for that today.
Absolutely. Thank you. I would just remind all members of the need to treat one another with courtesy and respect, and be very careful about the language we use to describe other members. Russell Findlay.
I tell you what, it's quite something being lectured from a career politician about barefaced dishonesty when he's built a career on it.
Mr Findlay, please have a seat. We have so many important questions that members wish to put in this session. Now, I'm not going to ask again. Can we please treat one another with courtesy and respect, and let's focus on the business of the day? Russell Findlay.
I assume that the phrase barefaced dishonesty was reasonable and allowable, given the First Minister just used it himself. But I will.
Mr Findlay, I have addressed that comment. I have reminded the First Minister and all members of the need to treat one another with courtesy and respect, and let's carry on our session in that manner.
People in the real world know that using Scotland's oil and gas is plain common sense. And they also know that we need a mix of energy sources for a stable supply and to cut costs for families and businesses. A new generation of nuclear power stations could be part of that. A new poll shows that most SNP voters even agree. Nuclear energy is green and clean. It produces a reliable and steady supply, and it would bring down people's bills. Yet John Swinney is intent on inflicting self-harm in Scotland by blocking all new developments. This is nonsensical, impractical and irresponsible. But he's blinded by ideology. Nuclear makes sense for our economy, it makes sense for our environment. So why doesn't it work for John Swinney?
For lots of reasons, not least of which the cost of nuclear power will not bring down the energy prices of householders in this country. Let me give Mr Findlay. Mr Findlay wants me to press ahead and develop new nuclear power stations. The Hinkley Point C project, a nuclear power station, was due to be completed in 2025, this year, at a cost of £34 billion. It is now expected, on current estimates, to cost £46 billion and be delayed until 2031. Yeah. It's supposed to cost £34 billion. Is going to cost £46 billion. How's that going to bring down fuel bills in this country? So what I would say to Mr Findlay is we have a very developed strategy to
Let's hear the First Minister.
A very developed and successful strategy of attracting investment to develop renewable energy capacity in Scotland. We have significantly achieved decarbonisation of our electricity networks by the development of renewable technology. The Deputy First Minister and I led an investment conference in Edinburgh a few weeks ago, along with the Net Zero Secretary, which brought hundreds of investors into Scotland to invest in renewable energy. That is the future for this country. Clean, green energy that will lower fuel bills, and we'll get that from an SNP government.